Welcome to Something to Say, where we bring voices from diverse backgrounds who will share their unique stories and perspectives on finding their passion and provide insights on how you can find yours. Join us as host Greg DeShields guides us through this enlightening journey.
Welcome to episode 7 of Something to Say podcast, a unique platform that amplifies the voices of individuals from various backgrounds sharing their passions. I'm your host, Greg DeShields, and I'm excited to bring you this very special podcast swap episode of Something to Say. Today, we're thrilled to introduce fellow podcasters and our special guests, Leon Thomas and Miranda Kitterlin Lynch. They are the dynamic co-hosts of Checking In, a Lodging DEI Chat, where they dive into critical conversations surrounding diversity, equity, and inclusion within the hospitality industry. We're excited to have them with us today. So let me first tell you about the two of our guests. Leon Thomas is the president of the Leon Thomas Group. His company's most popular services are virtual events, hosting, and directing them. He began his 35-year career as a line-level employee and advanced through the ranks to hold many management positions within the hotel business. Before founding the Leon Thomas Group, Leon served in various capacities with several hotel brands and management companies. His many years of success, along with his fun, energetic presentation style, garnished him the reputation as a popular speaker at industry meetings and conventions. Before pursuing a full-time career in the hotel business, Leon was a distinguished basketball coach and athletic administrator. He is currently a USA racquetball certified coach and runs one of the largest youth programs on the East Coast, a nonprofit focused on giving more kids access to racquetball. Dr. Miranda Kitterlin Lynch is the associate professor of a hospitality and tourism management program. She received her doctoral degree in hospitality administration from the University of Las Vegas. She is a director of networking for, get this, the Southeast Central and South American Federation, otherwise known as SICA, team for the International Council of Hotel and Restaurant Institutional Education. And that's the last time I'm going to say that way. Dr. Kitterlin has been the recipient of a Faculty Senate Award for Excellence in Teaching, Advising, and Mentoring, and is a recipient of the ICRE Education Collegiality Award. Dr. Kitterlin Lynch is a Coca-Cola Endowed Professor, recipient of international and domestic Best Paper Awards, and has published over 100 peer-reviewed articles, conference proceedings, and industry trade publications. So I am so thrilled to have both of you with us today. I'm so excited to dive into today's conversation. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here. You made us sound way more important than I think we
Yeah,
are.
wow. I tell you what, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. There's more. There's more, please.
And I have to be honest with you, like at one point in time, I was going to try, just read all of it, but I said, no, I have to pull all the highlights. But, I also want to thank both of you for the opportunity to be interviewed on the Checking In, your Lodging DEI Chat. So not only was it a blast, and I did have a great time, but the story was actually picked up by an industry publication called Vents Magazine. So the message and the communication is getting around. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us.
So you both are extremely knowledgeable of the hospitality industry, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I have to give a big shout out and congrats to you because both of you are making a true difference. And we know that on your show, you've talked to a wide range of industry leaders, and that will really add to, I think, the depth of what our conversation will be today. But before we get into the weeds, it's always fun, at least in our podcast, to get to know you. So we have 3 get to know you questions, and because we have two individuals as our guests, we're going to give both of you an opportunity to answer them. So Miranda, you're up first. So the first question, and then Leon, you'll follow as well. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would that be and why?
Oh my goodness. Any historical figure? Just one? Oh, it has to be me first. I think it would have to be any one of our founding fathers because I've got questions.
Very good. Leon, how about you?
I would have dinner today with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Now, not back in the 50s and 60s that I suddenly go there and have dinner with him, but I mean today. I don't know how old he would be today, upper 90s, 100, whatever that is. I would have dinner with him today to ask some questions about the insider experience that he had back then. And I would also, I hate this term. I hate this term. I would also pick his brain about what needs to happen now in several industries. One of them is athletics and of course hospitality. So I would get his perspective on what needs to happen to make things change.
It's so interesting you say that because someone asked me, and about 2 years ago, I received a Martin Luther King Medal of Honor, and it made me think about him. I did so much research about him. And when the question was presented to me, I wanted to, say obviously like my mom or my dad or something like that, but it would definitely be him to kind of like, let me tell you what's happening today. Like, is this better or is it worse? Or,
Yeah.
so. But wonderful. Both of you had great answers. And Miranda, I should also point out, like you had said, founding fathers. I've actually had some people say, I would love to sit down and talk to Jesus, which was an interesting response. So let's lighten the conversation a little bit. So, Miranda, are there specific daily habits or routines that you believe really contributes to the productivity and the well being of yourself during the day?
Yes, absolutely. And it's going to be a little bit cheesy, but I journal every day, not just inspirational or affirmational, but I have a journal for each one of my daughters that I write in, even if it's just a sentence or two
Wow.
every day, either about what they're like today or what we're doing, or just, I don't know, like my message to them for when they are older and can no longer get messages from me.
Wow. How meaningful. How about you, Leon?
There are two things that I do. First, I try to make sure that every day I read a passage in the Bible, and just not to read it, but I try to study it and go deeper into it, and try to make sure that I can apply that scripture that day to my life, and I stay focused on that throughout the day. So that's one. The other thing is because of the racquetball program that you talked about. I love being on the court with the kids. And so I usually Tuesdays are the off day from racquetball because that's date night with my wife. But the rest of the time, I spend a lot of time on the court, and it's a way for me to give back to the community, but it's also great for me. It gives me exercise, right? And so I appreciate the opportunity to coach the kids, but it's a win-win. I hope they're having fun and learning, and it's exercise for me too. So those are things that if I don't play racquetball, I just don't feel right. Or if I don't read a little scripture, I don't feel right either.
You can tell when he hasn't played racquetball for a while. He gets a little
Well,
cranky.
me cranky? Never, never happened.
So, it's interesting when I was kind of researching some interesting questions, that certainly came up about the beginning of your day. But in our house, we've adapted the thorn, rose, and bud. Have you heard of that? So,
Yeah.
I know the rose and thorn, but not the bud part.
yeah, so at the end of the day, we kind of like take stock of the day. So we find out if there's a rose. So obviously something that was absolutely fantastic for your day. And then the bud is something that's going to really, bring you great opportunity in the future. And then the thorn is obviously something that was really bad during the course of the day. But it's an interesting concept to at least look back on what happened during the course of the day and kind of figure it out, which one is which fits. So,
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
so, all right. So my third one is, and because we talk a lot about passion here on Something to Say, I felt this was a great question. So back to you, Miranda. How do you balance your work life with your interests and the passions that you have?
You know what? To be honest, I am very fortunate. I know that there are far more people who do not love their jobs than that do. I am incredibly passionate about what I do. I love every aspect of it. I love the teaching. I love the research. I love the service. anytime help someone in my area, I really, really thrive on my career. It is my passion other than my family. So I don't feel that I need to balance. I feel like it's all just one big being.
Very good. How about you, Leon?
Very similar to Miranda. I love what I do, right? I love working in our production company, the Leon Thomas Group. We get an opportunity to work with college students and recent grads and help them start their careers. We talked about the racquetball program. So I feel that I'm balanced. However, there are times that I just need to back away from it all, right? Because, as an example, a few days ago, I was up at 8 a.m. for a recording. That client recording didn't end until noon. I had several meetings after that, and then at 4 o'clock, I left the studio and went to racquetball. Was there at 5, and I didn't leave there until 10. I got home at about 10:30. That's a long day. Now, I enjoyed it, but I also am thinking, of ideas on how I can not do so much.
Wow. So in both of your cases, that's a really good balance. I remember when I graduated from Johnson and Wales, and I was in, a hospitality management program. And as much as my father didn't want me to go into that industry, he did say to me that this will never ever seem like work to you because it's what you do. So I can appreciate from both of your perspective how it is kind of intertwined into you as individuals. All right, so the Leon and Miranda story. So I am anxious to kind of talk about this because you have your own show. So there's this chemistry and there's this automatically known interaction between the two of you, but a lot of people just don't know it. So now that I have you on something to say, I'm going to turn this question over to both of you. So the two of you are just very different. And Leon has a very specific way of identifying how different you are. But my question is, how did that really add to the quality of the work that you used in order to create your podcast show?
I don't know what you mean by I don't see any differences. So I think with any good partnership or with any good team, it's all about having people with strengths in different areas, right? And I think that we complement each other with our strengths and with our life experiences, right? So I think that that's what really creates a good dynamic is when you have those complementary experiences, histories, etc.
I agree with that. Greg, I don't know if should I go ahead and share now what I
Yeah.
call said about our relationship. What I said was, who'd have thunk that this, which she called Miranda, what you have referred to and others have said, a middle-aged white lady and an older, nearly seasoned black man working together, right? If you were to look at research, that would say we're really not supposed to work together, right? We're not supposed to do this. We're not supposed to do articles together. We're not supposed to have this show based on stereotypes. But I think because there's a common cause, a common theme that we both believe in, that has helped our show have some success.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I'm thrilled that the two of you did meet each other because you're doing some significant work. But that does take me to the next question. So, how did the two of you meet?
Yeah, so back I want to say it was 2020. I was asked to host a panel of I believe it was students, either students or industry professionals, to talk about DEI efforts. And after we had the panel, the virtual panel, Leon contacted me on LinkedIn. I think his messaging was meant to say, "Hey, these are the things that you really sucked at. Let me help you." But he said it in a much nicer way.
Wow, wow. That what I remember from that, Greg, was being a virtual event producer, and of course, back in 2020, everyone was, figuring out ways to get things on air, right? And so I attended not as with the idea being, let me find out what they're not doing well, and I'm going to email her or LinkedIn message. I was there for the content. I was there for the information.
Mm.
right? And the first thing that I honestly thought was, here's a white lady that gets it. Look at this. She's leading a panel with all black folk.
Mm.
Like, how cool is that? Then as I started listening and watching the event, I'm like, "Eh, things that could be changed. There's some things that could be changed." So I messaged Miranda, and I think my first message was great info, great conversation, great content, and all of that. And she came back with, yes, great, thank you, I appreciate it. Then I said something like, there's some ways to improve. Would you be interested in learning about it? And she said, yes. And then I think I sent like 10 pages of this can be better, this can be better, this can be better. And I was expecting, like I do for a lot of folks, is the return message that said, thanks, no thanks, goodbye, good luck, have a nice day.
Ah.
Instead, she embraced it, and that got things started for us.
Wow. Well, I always say there is a power of LinkedIn, and yours is a perfect example of how you can leverage that and really see some great outcomes. I will tell you, the gentleman who does our post production, I met him through LinkedIn, and he's in Pakistan. So the idea that you're able to leverage the network and the relationship you get is fantastic, and it certainly has shown to be the case for both of you. So now we've had an opportunity to learn a lot about both of you, and thank you so much for spending the time telling us about how you met and the power of LinkedIn. But more importantly, now I think it would be super if you had a bit of a 6-lane highway to talk about the checking in a lodging DEI chat podcast. I mean, there's a lot that I have to say with that. So, number one, why did you come up with chat and checking in? Obviously, I guess it's connected to the hotel industry, but can you tell us about the show, how you started it, and really what's the purpose behind it?
So when after Miranda and I met, there were some shows that the Leon Thomas Group was producing, and I asked her to be a guest on several of those shows, and most of them were related to DEI. And in watching how smooth she was in presenting and thinking about what our industry needs, I thought it would be great if the two of us could come together and start a show. But I think the first thing that happened was, Miranda, I think you contacted me to ask if I wanted to collaborate with you on an article about the lack of black hotel managers, right? I
Mhm.
think that was the first thing, and then that rolled into guest spots on some of our shows, and then it just took off from there. And I said, it was actually one of our interns who said, y'all should do a show. I'm like, we don't have time to do a show. And she said, you don't have time not to do
For sure.
a show because you both have similar interests and this is going to be a hit. And she was right. Yeah. So that's it from my perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think we're due for a follow-up article, because we did a couple of those for Hotel News Now, and now that we've got the show rolling and had so many great guests, I think I don't know, it's been such a rewarding experience. Thank you for being my teammate, Leon, on this journey.
Oh, thank you as well. I'm enjoying it. Thank you.
So I do want to just, maybe from it's the nerdy podcaster, branding, marketing guy. So how did you come up with the title of the show? I mean, there's so many things you probably could have called it.
Honestly, I think that I just asked my assistant at the time, my research assistant, "Hey, we have this idea. This is what we want to do." She was also very interested in this type of content, and I said, "Spitball some ideas at me." And I shared them with Leon, and he said, "This is the one."
Wow.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
That's right. Yeah. And when you think about, the term checking in, it fits well with the hotel industry, right? That you're gonna check into your room,
Right.
but also with the show being, let's check in to find out how things are going in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion in the hotel business. Let's check in to find out what's going on. So when Miranda sent that suggested show name over, I'm like, yeah, that's it. We're in. Let's roll.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I know one of the iconic questions on your show is what would you tell your 20-year-old self? And I have to say, it made me think for a while when I was asked that question. How did you come up with the question? But of course, how would the two of you answer that question? But let's first talk about how you came up with the question.
Gosh, I don't even remember how I came up with that. I think it's one of my favorite questions that I like to ask any of my guest speakers that come into the classroom or that I'm able to interview. And I think that it's just such a valuable thing to look, kind of reflect on. Um, if I had to give one answer, it would be I will give you an answer, but I look back at my 20-year-old self and think, gosh, you made so many mistakes. I want to tell you so many things. I think for our industry, there's so many people that are not aware of all of the opportunities and all of the avenues that you can take. People, I believe, kind of get pigeonholed into just a couple of the types of opportunities that our industry has to offer. And I think I was one of those people. I wish that someone had told me and my 20-year-old self, it's so much bigger than that. You have so many more opportunities.
Right. How about you, Leon?
Yeah, for me, it would be to listen to folks that are truly trying to help you. And here's why I say that. At 20 years old, I had a serious, for real internship at Robert Morris University where I went to college. I was also a JV basketball coach my sophomore year of college, which just doesn't happen that often, right? I wanted to be the basketball coach at UCLA. I mean, I had big time dreams, but I didn't share those aspirations with folks that were in a position to help me. Instead, I shared that information with people who really weren't in the industry and a bunch of naysayers. So the first thing is reach out to those folks that are doing what you want to do and ask them for help. It's surprising how many people will be your mentor. The second thing is I would take academics more seriously. I mean, I went to school before we even had computers, right? You had to go to the library and copy and write things down. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. No, if it's not in this book, it ain't happening. I'm not doing any additional work. I wish I would have become a book nerd. So imagine how cool that would have been. Here's this guy that's coaching basketball, working in the athletic department, and he has a 4.0, right? That would have been it. So I always tell folks now, share where you want to go, get people to help you. So that would be my advice to the 20-year-old Leon.
All right, so I do want to dive into some serious conversation because the two of you are very much entrenched in it. So we have some industry questions, and I really want to put those in the perspective of the work that you've been doing with your show. So the first is, what are some of the notable trends or developments that you are seeing as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion in the hospitality tourism industry? And I'll let both of you respond to that.
I'll start with the thorn, if you will, that I'm seeing. I think depending on where you are in the United States, efforts have been somewhat stifled. I won't pick on any of the states or politicians or anything like that, but I know that in certain areas, people are very discouraged by their seeming inability to continue the progress that we were hoping to see back in 2020. So,
Well, there are a couple of things. One, I still see a lot of interaction on particularly LinkedIn, where there is a statement about a way to improve DEI in the hotel business and other industries. And I still see folks providing negative comments toward those posts. So a recent post I saw, someone said, our hotel is looking for general managers and we'd really like to have some minority candidates. Okay, right on, great. Many of the comments were, oh, so white people aren't good enough. You're looking specifically for black folk. Why? And I'm like, they're trying to help. This is a company that's trying to give folks an opportunity, right? The next thing is I sense that because of all the laws that are changing and the guidelines that are out there, that people are afraid to talk about it. People are afraid to do things. Um, we've had some folks that we would like to have on the show, and I contact them, and they're like, "No, I can't. I can talk about anything but that. My company's not gonna like it. My family's not gonna like it." I'm like, dude, just the other day you told me you're supporting the show. those things, right? So that's what those are trends that I see.
It's interesting the trends that you bring up, and certainly in as much as your show is entitled Checking In, I mean, had we, I guess, listened to some of your earlier recordings, who would have thought that we would be at this point having this kind of conversation when 2021, your conversations probably would have been, there's so many people who want to talk about it. So
Yeah.
it is really a good check-in to let people know that there are some significant headwinds or just trends of change. That means that how we approach it in this business is going to be different from how it was before, and probably as it is as we move forward. But just to go a little bit deeper, so are there some common misconceptions that you would probably want to share or clean up about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the tourism industry, hospitality industry?
I think the first one would be, don't be afraid to talk about it. And I know that when I first started working in this area and learning in this area, I for sure was afraid to say the wrong thing. And I think that's a big reason why people are not talking about it, because they don't want to say the wrong thing because of cancel culture, et cetera. But I think that it's important to know that, yes, the likelihood of you saying the wrong thing, it exists. But if you say nothing, then you're not really doing anything. So
The one of the things that I wish that folks would think about when they hear the term DEI, it's not all about race. There's so many things that are included in the DEI conversation. And when one sees those letters, DEI, for many, their thoughts go to race and race relations. And we had two guests on our show that talked about making sure your hotel is more accessible for those with physical conditions, right? And I've seen other shows that highlight that. It's not just about race, and so often people focus on that, and it's much broader than race.
yes.
The both of you just have talked about language and how we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And there was an article about a week ago that came out in the Wall Street Journal where they were citing a conversation with Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan Chase and this evolution of the language of diversity and how even the phrase DEI is really being redacted from a lot of corporate annual reports and that sort of thing. So, can you talk about what you have seen, or what are some of your feedback about the language that's even being used? I mean, your program is a DEI chat. So, are you considering maybe reevaluating the use of that to find language that is more appropriate? So I just wanted to spend a little time and talk about the integration of language and how it's changing to maybe help even some of those in the audience to learn about some of the things that they should be thinking about.
One of the things that I often think about for any DEI podcast, educational session, or whatever, is that the terms that we use are so important. They're critical in how we communicate. So I'll give you an example. There's someone that I'm close to in the business, and he is a real strong proponent of giving minorities, Black folk, an opportunity. And I've never heard him use the term Black general manager, Black director of sales. He uses the term Afro color American. And every time I talk with him, I go, stop, no, no, no. That's not what it is. It's not Afro Black color American. It's African American, or just say Black. And he's like, well, what's the difference? You know what I mean? No, you're a leader in this. You give opportunity. You have to get the terminology right. You just can't let it float out there any way that you want. And the second thought that I have is that there are so many areas of intersectionality. You have a Black female, you have a Hispanic male, right? You have the Black male in a wheelchair, right? Who's married to a white lady. right? There's so many intersections that happen when we talk about DEI, and I'd like folks to understand those intersections and just not focus on one. And let's get the terms right.
Yeah, absolutely. And things change so quickly. I think that if people listening have suggestions for name changes for our show, we are certainly open. I am constantly trying to learn and improve. So please send it our way.
I know for many, the continued evolution of language is something that's really needed. It's almost like, you get volume one, volume two of the ever evolving dictionary, which helps you to be at least um, able to engage in the conversation without there being a preconceived interpretation of either your lack of knowledge or the inappropriate terms of the language that you use. But we've certainly learned over the last few years that where we started and what we use to describe the circumstances have changed as time has gone forward. I also wanted to kind of move to a conversation with you about the idea of innovation and what that really means from a DEI perspective. We've certainly seen the integration of artificial intelligence throughout the hospitality industry in a variety of different ways, but I wanted to kind of move the conversation away from some of the more granular discussion and really talk about some of the future evolution that's really associated not just with the hospitality industry, but how DEI will be impacted. So, can you discuss some of your observations or your thoughts around issues of innovation that you may see?
I think that we still see a lot of the same problems today that we saw 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I think we still see some of the same problems that simply have not gone away. So in terms of innovation, I don't know what it's going to take, but I know we need it
Hmm.
to actually move the needle, right, in a significant way. I think if I had the answer to that, I wouldn't be here. I'd be on my private island because I would have solved all the world's problems.
How about you, Leon?
Well, one of the innovative pieces that folks have been talking about for the last 18 months or so is the use of AI, right? And I read I've read many articles that talk about how AI is great, but you have to think about who is doing the programming for it. So if there is a young white male who's programming the AI system, they're going to have ideas on what AI should offer as responses, as feedback, right? If you were to have a very seasoned African American man, I may program it differently. Miranda may program it differently. Greg, you might program it differently. And so I see so many folks are putting a lot of effort and weight in. If AI said it, it's true. If AI said it, it's real, it's right. And it's not always that way.
And all of your listeners, in academics, I promise you, you don't wanna rely completely on AI, okay?
It's interesting because we did have a conversation with a producer of Black Travel. And her concern is the evolution of the use of technology and consumers' ability to make a choice and where they get that information. But what she had noticed that there was a lack of content that related specifically to Black or Hispanic or diverse businesses. So to use an AI tool, it will only give you what it has. And in some cases, I think there's even a disclaimer that says that, to the records of which we have, this is what we deliver to you. But there's a big gap
Yeah.
of content. So let me just say it has been an absolute pleasure to check in with both of you. But our show is entitled Something to Say. And we purposefully came up with that because we know everybody has something that they want to say. So why don't we start with you, Miranda, first? What do you have to say?
It's not an original thought, but it's something that I believe firmly in, and it's if you can help people in any aspect of life, and if you can't help people, at least get the hell out of their way, right? So
So I have two things. One, if your company has made statements that indicate you support DEI, but the pictures on your website and those that you post with, hey, look at us, does not show diversity, you need to stop talking about it. And I often call folks out when I see those photographs, right? So if you're about it, be about it, right? And if you're not, don't say you are, and that's okay. The next thing is DEI, and this comes from one of our guests, Juan Tamayo. He said, DEI should not be seen as an extracurricular activity. This should not be a sign up if you feel like it, right? And it needs to be more than just a one-shot meeting or whatever, right? But here's the other thing. We all have gifts that we can use to help others. I want to encourage everyone to not sleep on your gifts. Greg, what you bring to the table to help someone is something totally different than I offer, something totally different than Miranda offers. But we all, every one of us has something that we have, a skill, a relationship maybe, that we can use to help people. And I'd like to see us, particularly in the hospitality industry, but wherever else our lives take us to, let's think about how can we help? How can we improve the lives of others?
Wow. So Leon and Miranda, I want to thank you both for this special swap episode of Something to Say. Your passion and your insights are truly words that will inspire and influence individuals to connect with their own passion. So thank you both for being a part of today's show.
Thank you so much
you.
for having us.
Greg, thank you for having us. I enjoyed the time spending with you. Thank you.
So that's a wrap for this special swap episode of Something to Say. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations and voices from individuals from diverse backgrounds sharing their passions. So until next time, this has been Greg DeShields.
Thank you for tuning in to Something to Say. We trust you found some valuable insights and takeaways that can help you find your passion. Don't miss out on future episodes. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on your preferred platform. We value your feedback and suggestions, so let us know how we can serve you better. Keep the conversation going and stay inspired until we meet again. Take care and happy listening.